Good evening, and I would really like to thank those with the Dallas Way for preserving the history of the GLBT community, and especially thanks for including me. I want to share with you my transition into the gay and lesbian community. I will try to balance information about the two groups that I've been involved with my own personal journey. A little background. I was raised in the conservative town of Wichita Falls, Texas. Don't need to say much more, right? I was engaged at age 16 and married at 18 in 1961. What did I know about orientation then? I, like most of my friends, got married early. I wanted a baby. I wanted a family. Dan was a very kind, intelligent young man. I had my first child, TJ, when I was 20. I had Brad at age 23. I was one of those stay-at-home moms. I continued my college, finally received my degree in 1979 at UTD. I did oil painting, was scout leader for my kids, room mother for my kids, all of that, and I enjoyed it. Dan and I raised our family in Lake Highlands in Dallas. Our daughter came out in 1989 at age 25. I had figured it out that TJ was gay, and I approached her about it, and she said, "That's what I wanted to talk to you about." Dan and I were pretty liberal parents, and we adjusted to that news pretty quickly. But even liberal parents go through a few stages, and you've probably heard some of these, like I would ask my daughter, "Are you sure about this? Is this a phase? Can't you just be friends with her?" And some of the moms, I hate to say this, including myself, remember this was over 20-something years ago, think, what did I do wrong? And mine was, maybe I got TJ involved in the women's movement too soon. You know, I did buy her that little women's equality necklace. But as it really turned out, I was concerned about her safety. I was concerned about her career working with children. Would that be a problem? Can you believe that? Remember, it was over 20 years ago. Got through those stages very quickly, realized that was her true orientation, of course. So I wanted to help other parents out there, and I looked up PFLAG, but there was no PFLAG in Dallas at that time. So, and that's, as she said, Parents, Family, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. So I and about 4 other moms founded the Dallas chapter in January of 1992. I was the president for 5 years, and I answered the helpline. I later served as Southern Regional Director, and I sat on the national board. I had found my voice. I had never been a public speaker, but when you must fight for the rights of your child, it becomes easier to speak out. We base PFLAG on support, education, and advocacy. They're very important to balance those three, because we didn't push the advocacy with some of the parents right away, but you know, a lot of them came in that door ready to march in those gay pride parades. And if not, then sometimes they chose to speak out to their family, speak out to their legislators as a way of being an advocate. The main thing was to help family members come to terms and accept and support their gay loved one. It was an amazing organization. We worked at our meetings with rap groups, and in fact, my husband Dan was a rap group leader, and we had monthly speakers. And often back in those days, we had 50 to 100 people at those meetings. My big triumph, I think, was getting Dallas Mayor Ron Kirk to speak to our group. He did a great job. I remember him talking about how his mom took his cousin in who had AIDS and how she cared for him. From my work on the helpline, it was amazing to talk to parents from all walks of life, from all religions, helping them to come to terms with having a gay child. But it was sort of sad at times talking to the gay youth on the phone, because so many of them had been kicked out of their home by their parents simply for being gay. A few other activities of PFLAG. I don't want to bore you with this, but maybe you're not familiar with PFLAG back then. We spoke to the DISD school board. We spoke on TV and radio, and those radio audiences were not very supportive. Some of them were late at night, and truck drivers would call in, and it was not pretty. We loved working alongside the Dallas gay and lesbian community, and we so appreciated their support. We loved marching in those gay pride parades. In 1992, right after we started, we picketed with a lot of the other groups, the Dallas Convention Center at the National Affairs Briefing Conference It was a protest against those who had just recently spoken so badly about gays and lesbians at that Republican convention. It was a sort of a scary evening. I remember police on horseback and a few people shouting at us and waving Bibles in our face. Years later, in 1996, we picketed again with the other groups. We were picketing against the anti-gay and racial slurs said by a local school board member. We have come a long way since those two incidents. I don't believe we would see that today. Ellen Sweets from the Dallas Morning News did a story on us back in 1995, and it appeared in the front of the Today section, Dallas Morning News, When the Closet Door Opens. Also, a reporter from Channel 8 Family First Town Hall meeting interviewed us and showed a clip on the evening news. They also interviewed my daughter and myself. You may remember this, a family outing at the State Fair of Texas. Our PFLAG chapter received some prized awards, including the Cathedral of Hope's Hope Award, as well as the Alan Ross Texas Freedom Parade Award. And I have to brag a little. I was really especially thrilled to accept the Extra Mile Award, as well as the Dallas Gay and Lesbian Alliance Board of Directors Award. Those were fun for me. PFLAG always had a table at the Black Tie Dinner event back in those days, and later became a beneficiary. Well, that was all fun and smooth, but things got a little rocky in the fall of 1996 when I realized I was lesbian. Okay, a dynamic speaker spoke to PFLAG on July the 11th, 1996, activist Lori Masters. Yep. She did such a great job, and about 2 weeks later, feelings for her came to me. Seemed like out of the blue. However, I had gotten comfortable in the gay community as I did my PFLAG work. Long story short, she was the catalyst for my seeing my true orientation, an orientation I feel was there all along. Our relationship was that of friendship only. She helped me through this time in my life with a lot of class, and she suggested counseling to handle what would come later when I came out. Plus, I was told I wasn't her type anyway. I guess you all know that, right? Yes. Besides devastating my husband and possibly the rest of my family, I was very concerned about how my being lesbian would play out concerning my position with PFLAG and with my work as a straight advocate in the Dallas gay community. I had found my voice, but was I about to lose it? I called a special board meeting of PFLAG, and I informed all members in my newsletter about this new information about myself. I felt that was important since I was about to be reelected as president. I felt they needed to know that before they voted me in. I had not even acted upon this newfound orientation, but I knew in my heart I was lesbian. With a few exceptions, I received a lot of support. Those exceptions included someone from the gay and lesbian community and someone from PFLAG. They came to me and asked me to step down from the leadership of PFLAG. They loved and respected me, but were afraid our chapter would be hurt. That was a sad time for me. I did not want to step down, not unless it was really necessary. I felt that our organization was strong enough to weather this. There was some concern about new parents coming in that door and having a lesbian president. Perhaps that would be a problem. I understood that. My daughter had the answer. Have a straight parent serve my last year with me. I was stepping down after 5 years anyway, and that was my last year. You know, that worked great. Dave Gleason and myself served as co-presidents for that last year. I stepped down from the helpline, which I dearly loved, and had someone else greet the new parents. By the way, National PFLAG was very supportive of my situation. My husband was devastated. We had been married for 35 years. Brad was hurt, mainly at first due to the pain of his dad, but he came around quickly. TJ understood both sides of the issue, and she was able to support me and her dad. Telling my mom was difficult, since she had heard this from her granddaughter just 7 years prior to my coming out. Her first words were, though, "You know I still love you." By the way, Lori Masters introduced me to my first partner, Evie Kincaid, October of 1997. My divorce had become final in January of that year, January 17th, Evie and I were together for 11 years. She and I, as well as Lori and I, are still good friends. In fact, I talked to Lori Monday, and she is so sorry that she is unable to be here. But she said for me to be sure and tell you about the toaster oven. So I decided to include that. Many of you know our friend John Seelig. He too really regrets that he cannot attend tonight. He was the first person I told about my new orientation. In fact, he was the one who suggested I ask Lori to speak to PFLAG. Well, the two of us thought it would be great fun to have Lori and some of her friends come over to my place and surprise her with a takeoff of Ellen, when Ellen presented her catalyst, a toaster oven, on her TV show. We did that. And Lori was speechless, if you can believe that. She loved it. She says it's one of the highlights of her life, and we do have it on video. On another humorous note, one of the PFLAG's moms told me that she had seen many lesbians at that church, the Cathedral of Hope Church, and she wanted me to find out what they did with all their stuff because they didn't carry purses. So that was her concern about me coming out. There was a lot of media coverage on my coming out. If you can believe it, the gay press picked it up in Atlanta and Houston and Washington, D.C. Local coverage was due mainly to will she be reelected to PFLAG. Several stories appeared in the Dallas Voice, mainly written by Tammy Nash, on that issue, and I was reelected. There was a large cover story, if you remember this, Ann Zimmerman in the Dallas Observer, January 30th, 1997. It was a good, balanced article, and it was about my coming out situation and the whole thing. And it was entitled Late Bloomer. I said I would do the interview if it would help other women out there, and it did. The Observer article led to my founding of the group Late Bloomer in 1997. I heard from many women due to that article, and I started the group later in the year. And we met at La Madeleine, 3906 Lemon. In fact, it still meets there. It's a group of women who feel they have come out later in life, and it includes all ages. It's a different group, more low-key. I still had my voice, just a little quieter voice. Many of the women are fragile and they have been closeted. They are dealing with different issues from other groups. Child custody, issue of coming out, of marriages, dealing with leaving their church after many, many years. And some, it was dealing with losing their best friend, their husband. Some of the women suppressed their feelings for years, and some, like myself, didn't actually realize their orientation until all of a sudden later in life. Many are learning to date for the first time in years. They tend to do their own thing, regardless of stereotypes, even if it means carrying those purses. Reporter Steve Blow visited our meeting and did a story about us for the Dallas Morning News. It was called Late Bloomers Shake Sexual Foundations. I stepped down from the Late Bloomers after leading it for 14 years. This happened a couple years ago. It still meets every second Tuesday of the month. It's a great group. I wrote a book, and it was published in 2009. It was entitled Awakening: How a 53-year-old wife and mother, quote, became a lesbian. It covers much of what I have discussed here, plus some personal issues. I do not mention the book here in order to push it, but I would like to donate a copy to the Dallas Way so it could become part of the archives. Yeah. And it is still available at Amazon.com. I would like to read the quote I included at the first of the book by Anise Nin. And the day came when the risk to remain tied in a bud was more painful than the risk to blossom. A fitting quote for us late bloomers, as well as for anyone struggling with the coming out issue. For me, coming out was a missing piece of the puzzle of my life. I had no guilt coming out, no regrets except hurting my husband. By my coming out, I felt things that I only knew intellectually, little things maybe, before, like being careful of open affection with my partner. It takes, you have to be in someone's shoes. I knew this from my daughter, I knew this from my work in PFLAG, but to really feel it was a different thing. I now live in the Cedar Creek Lake area near Dallas with my partner of 3 years, Linda Sands. We lead yay, Linda. We are the Sandstones, right? We lead a calm but fun life out there with our 3 doggies and our many friends. I'm back to my oil painting, which I enjoy very much. We attend the gay and lesbian church out there called Celebration on the Lake Church. It was founded by Reverend Carol West of the Celebration Church in Fort Worth, one of our speakers. The pastor now at the lake is Kathy Bowser. I tease her that she beat me out of winning the Kuklin Award back in 1997. But what a deserving and nice person to have won it. She is very special. Thanks again for including me in this endeavor. I appreciate those leaders who came before me. They made it so much easier for me and others. And I hope those coming out in the future will have an even easier time. Surely there will be a day when people look at all this material and they will say, "My, I can't believe that gays and lesbians were treated like that, and that it took so long for them to have equal rights." Things are so much better now, but there is more to be done. Attitudes are changing. We just have to keep passing the torch on to others. Thanks.